Welcome into the 615 Sessions podcast on this Friday afternoon. Hope everybody's doing okay. Quick updates on a lot of things happening coming out of Titans practice. Typically, we have a co-host for the 615 Sessions. Had some last-minute change of plans, so Titans legend Keith Bullock will join us next week on the podcast on Thursday. We'll do it a little earlier in the week, but today it'll just be you and me. So we've got some injury updates for you about the Titans and Bengals games. There's also been a pretty significant development that would directly impact this team's offensive line situation. So we're going to go through those developments that have happened literally in the last, let's call it 2.5 hours since the radio show wrapped up today. We'll go through those with you together. You're going to hear from Mike Vrabel, Ryan Tannehill, and DeAndre Hopkins over the course of the 615 Sessions podcast. Before we get started, if you're live streaming with us today, we'd be happy to have you, and we'd be happy to have you share the show around. Welcome back to the Facebook audience. Apparently, Facebook has been finicky, but it appears that we are back up and rolling there. So if you are hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. On Twitter, if you are on Facebook, you can share now to public, bottom left-hand corner of your screen. YouTube, Twitch, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will make sure that we get as many of you guys and your friends hanging out here and talking about the latest developments for the Tennessee Titans this afternoon. The podcast is presented by Relax the Back Nashville. Go and check out their great store in Green Hills. If you are in need of a new office chair, if you're somebody who needs a standing desk, I didn't know I needed a standing desk until I got one and found out the benefits of it. If you are not sleeping well enough at night, Relax the Back, hashtag We've Got Your Back Nashville. We'll get you right. And Two Rivers Ford, of course, Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, 40 years of serving Middle Tennesseans, quality American-made Ford vehicles, and award-winning customer service. Powered by Ford, driven by people. Okay, so what has happened since the last time we got together? Whether you're somebody who streams the primetime show or you listen to the radio show, we have a couple of developments here. So there's 4 players who have officially been ruled out ahead of Sunday's game with the Cincinnati Bengals. And the players who have been ruled out, unfortunately for the Tennessee Titans, include Peter Skoronski, who we did know was going to be, or who we had a really, really strong idea, an inkling that would be the case. He's still working his way back from the appendectomy. Elijah Molden is going to miss this game. So their secondary depth takes a hit. Amani Hooker will be playing, so they don't necessarily need Molden, but more depth is better than less, and it only takes so many games before the injuries start to pile up. Luke Gifford, the linebacker, is also ruled out of this game, and then Treylon Burks dealing with a knee injury. Treylon Burks has been ruled out, and I've been talking about Treylon Burks a lot this week, I feel like. I came into this season with pretty high expectations for the second-year wide receiver, the former first-round pick, and I feel like I've always taken a softer approach, if that makes any sense, with Treylon Burks, because I think his circumstance has been really, really damn unfair. Honestly, I think that Treylon Burks got about as bad a shake as anybody with the situation that he landed in. We've talked about this before. It's not Treylon Burks' fault that he was a part of the A.J. Brown trade, that he was a part of the transaction that saw A.J. Brown go on and play in a Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles and leave Titans fans, pretty despondent in that transaction's wake. Treylon Burks is going to forever be attached to that trade. He doesn't have to be A.J. Brown for him to be a functioning piece here, for him to be successful here. But he has to be consistent, which he hasn't been. And even worse than the consistency, he's largely unavailable. And that, I think, is the thing that frustrates you the most. The guy, for one reason or another, concussion not his fault, Turf toe, not his fault. This knee injury, not his fault. It's not like he's doing anything that would cause this. Mike Vrabel said, because MB says, hush, hush, Buck, isn't it supposed to be a big secret, a knee injury about Treylon Burks? Well, here's the thing. My concern with Treylon Burks is that I'm not interested in putting a timeline on anything, but Vrabel made it sound a bit more short term than it's my understanding that it is. So I think the Treylon Burks injury situation bears monitoring for the foreseeable future. I think it's going to be a talking point, not just for the Bengals game, but I think we're talking about a chunk of time that he could potentially be out. The news has happened here in he's been dealing with this injury for the past couple of days, and he missed Wednesday's practice. He was limited on Thursday. Ultimately, they decided, all right, he's not going to be able to go. And today, when they ruled him out, obviously you start to dig into it a little bit. All right, how long, how severe could this potentially be? And severe is probably not a word that I should use around it, because I don't believe it to be a severe injury. But I do think that it is going to be one that is going to cost him multiple weeks. We'll see if this is a situation where he misses more than one game. But at least in terms of practice time, I don't expect this necessarily to be a short-term situation. We'll see what happens with Treylon Burks. It's very early on in the year. I just come away with the Treylon Burks situation really disappointed, as I'm sure most of you are. This is a first-round pick at wide receiver. Your organization has a pretty tortured history when it comes to first-round wide receivers. When it comes to wide receivers, the position generally. And so that this happens again today, you do get a bit of positive news. We'll talk about Nicholas Petit-Frere, who will be made available 2 games ahead of schedule, and I'll explain the recent news around that here in just a second. But the Treylon Burks injury is substantial. I think it impacts the way that we're going to talk about him. As disappointed as I think people are in Christian Fulton on defense, Treylon Burks is really the player that I've been the most underwhelmed by. I don't know how fair that is. I don't know if that's just because I would like to watch him take a step. I would like to watch him participate in this offense. I would like to see him live up to the potential that the player that I saw in college can be at this level. I would like to see him in an offense that has creativity. I would like to see him in an offense where the quarterback has the opportunity to get him the ball in a timely fashion. And right now, Treylon Burks' circumstance seems to be unfortunate. Now, there's only so long that people will put up with this. You guys have a certain level of patience or lack thereof, and that's fine. You're entitled to that, because explanations can also double as excuses. And this is the kind of space that we're now entering into with Treylon Burks. Well, the injuries aren't his fault is an explanation. And also, he's not available. What's the excuse? I think that's the way that a lot of people are going to look at this. And as Darian L. White says, you guys can interact in the chat if you want here on the 615 Sessions podcast. We're doing this on a Friday afternoon. If you're just now hopping in on the live stream, Treylon Burks is one of 4 players who has officially been ruled out for the Titans game against the Bengals on Sunday. Darian on Facebook Live says, time for the other receivers to step up. They're already short. And honestly, Chris Moore has stepped up just fine. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins has been a problem. I don't think there's been a lack of stepping up on his part. In fact, Treylon Burks, to say that the other wide receivers need to step up in his absence, he's made one truly difference-making play in 3 games. The 70-yard completion down the field in the Chargers game that gave them new life in the, a portion of the way through the second quarter. That was a difference-making play. That was a game-changing play. They were leaking oil, Mike Vrabel said, of the offense, and that they needed something to just prop them up. And so he made that play. He doesn't consistently do it. He's not available enough to consistently do it. And so to say that the other wide receivers have to step up, he has to be, there has to be some void that he's leaving. And right now, he's not leaving a very big production void for somebody else to fill, if that makes any sense. YouTuber, I don't know if that's your actual handle on YouTube, but it just says YouTuber on my end. Says, has Shi Smith been practicing? He has, but he's a practice squad player. We'll see if he's a game day elevation. Right now, he's not on the active roster. Jesse Hernandez, you just said it, one effing play. I mean, he's had more than one catch on the season, but you need him to be a difference maker. You need guys who can make plays down the field. And right now, there's an absence of that. Treylon Burks is a part of the problem. Steel Titan asks if this lack of production is the same knee injury from camp. It is, I don't know if it's the same knee. I don't know if it's the same knee from camp. All I know is that I don't think this is related to the sprain that he suffered earlier in August. But like I said, it's, we've just recently gotten the information. So we're trying to, all I know is that it has the potential to cost him multiple weeks beyond just this one. David Heath Hearn says, isn't Molden hurt again? Yes, he has also already been ruled out for this game. So Treylon Burks will be unavailable. The rest of the injury report, the guys who are questionable, for your reference, this is what it looks like right now. The team just sent us the injury report. So as I mentioned, Luke Gifford, Elijah Molden, Peter Skoronski, and Treylon Burks are all out. T.R. Tart, who's been working through a knee injury, he was DNP on Wednesday, limited the last 2 days. He is questionable. Danico Autry is questionable as well. That's an injury to keep an eye on. I was down on the field pregame in Cleveland when Frank Pirano and Todd Torricelli, one of the strength and conditioning coaches and the head trainer, Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon were out there, along with Danico's position coaches, were out there observing him pregame to try and see if he was a go. He was a game time decision on Sunday against the Browns. And I don't know if that affected him overwhelmingly. I know that a groin injury for a player that age is not ideal, and I'm sure has to be frustrating, but, everybody plays through injuries to an extent. Danico Autry was able to play through it against the Browns. We'll see if this is a situation where he is again testing at game time. Xavier Cohen says, Buck, I met you at the last home game. I didn't know that you were that tall. I get that a lot. It's like you guys think that, listen, it's not like actors, right? We're not all 5'9". It's nice to be reminded that I am actually of above average height because I work around giants for a living. So just because I'm not 6'7" makes me feel like I'm a shorty, like a short king every once in a while. And which, it's 6'2". It's tough to make me feel like a short king, but so it's nice to be around normal sized people every once in a while. So I'm just for my own self-confidence, just so I'm not looking up at people towering over on me, sticking microphones in front of their faces. But nice to meet you. If I met you at the last home game, always good to catch up with you guys on the road or at home. It's always fun to see you guys out in the wild. So Anthony, forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, Anthony. I'll just say Anthony on YouTube. You say you only made one play, but show me the guy on the team who has made more. We're literally talking about the only guy on the team who's made a big play. Well, no, I don't think that's true. I think Derrick Henry, having over 100 yards from scrimmage in New Orleans, was making big plays. I think Tajay Spears has made big plays. You're talking about one. Chris Moore has made two more. Chris Moore has made one more than Treylon Burks has, if you want guys who have made more plays than Treylon Burks. I think everybody that I've just listed for you. Now, the problem is the offensive line sandbags the situation, so you cannot get a lot of these things off the ground. But I think, DeAndre Hopkins has had big catches on third down. He helped seal the overtime win against the Chargers. I think that counts as a big play. It's not just like 70-yard catches, right? That's not something that's going to happen very often in any offense. But I'm talking about guys who you can rely upon. You know what was frustrating for me, Anthony, is at the end of the game, and I've talked about this on the radio show. Maybe I brought it up on primetime too. I can't remember. But what's frustrating to me is the game is out of hand in Cleveland. All right, we're sitting in the press box watching the fourth quarter. And Tannehill, I can't remember the down and distance, but Tannehill has a shot play, Treylon Burks, one-on-one coverage, streaking down the field. The ball placement is good. He has proper protection. He gets the pass off. They haven't been able to do shit on offense all day. And Treylon Burks, even though the game is out of hand, Treylon Burks lets the ball hit him in the hands and he drops it. I understand that the game is over. That the play doesn't mean anything in the scope of that particular day. But I think there is a fundamental reliability that Treylon Burks has to prove. He has to give the quarterback a reason to trust him more often than not, to trust him on those go balls down the field. He has to be able to consistently come up with catches. He's had drops over the middle of the field this year. He's had a couple of drops this year that are really frustrating, most notably against the Saints. And then, like I said, the game was out of hand against the Browns. I think he had a second one against the Browns that he could have come up with. The Browns play good defense. Obviously, you want to make sure that you give proper credit to a really, really skilled defense because they just punked you. You couldn't have done anything anyway that day. But like, you can't cite who's made more big plays on the team when Chris Moore, who just got here, who's 30 years old and has really never been he's been a professional wide receiver, but he's been a special teamer. Chris Moore making plays for your offense in ways that he's never been able to get on the field for other offenses before, other than last year's Houston Texans, is concerning. You're paying Treylon Burks a hell of a lot more than you're paying Chris Moore. Treylon Burks, the future of Treylon Burks, matters a hell of a lot more than Chris Moore. And yet Chris Moore is the more reliable target. NWI is the more reliable target. And I think that's pretty irritating. It should be pretty irritating to you if you're a Titans fan. So let's talk about this updated gambling policy quickly here on the podcast before we wrap things up for the day. Appreciate you guys hopping on with us this afternoon. So the NFL does typically what we call Friday news dumps, where they're just trying to get some stuff out of the way ahead of a weekend where they know people aren't going to be able to spend a week talking about it. So this is a lot of time when you see suspensions come out. But this was a rather positive development, especially if you've had a team impacted by the gambling policy. So the NFL and the NFLPA about an hour ago issued a joint statement as we do this podcast on a Friday afternoon. The NFL and NFL Players Association share a long-standing and unwavering commitment to protecting the integrity of the game. The NFL periodically, good Lord, easy for me to say. The NFL periodically reviews the gambling policy in consultation with the NFLPA and clubs to ensure it is responsive to changing circumstances and fully addresses this commitment. Okay, so that's a statement that comes out, and as a result, the NFL puts out a release saying that they have adapted their gambling policy, and that several players, not players who have been betting on NFL games, but players who have been betting on other sports at team facilities, i.e. Nicholas Petit-Frere, will be available effective almost immediately. They will not be effective for Sunday's game available effective for Sunday's game, but Monday, October 2nd, Nicholas Petit-Frere of the Tennessee Titans, Jameson Williams, the wide receiver for the Detroit Lions, and free agent Stanley Berryhill, who was also suspended earlier this offseason, will all be eligible to participate in all activities, including games, on October the 2nd. Free agent Stanley Berryhill, October the 3rd. So that's from the Director of Communications, Tim Schlittner, at the NFL. And we got that email about a little more than an hour ago. So whatever adaptations they've made to the gambling policy have benefited Nicholas Petit-Frere and Jameson Williams. Remember, they weren't betting on NFL games, but they were betting on apps in, quote unquote, the team facility. So the team facility could be the actual practice facility. It could be the team hotel. It could be the team bus if you're using NFL, sanctioned Wi-Fi. Like, the team facility scope is pretty broad, and NPF got popped under that rule. So now he and Jameson Williams and Berryhill will all be eligible at latest as of Tuesday next week. And that at least gives the Titans a more immediate option, should they need a more immediate option, as they figure out their offensive line situation. That's going to be a big thing that we're all, of course, watching on Sunday against the Bengals. Andre Dillard, who has given up, according to Pro Football Focus, 6 sacks through 3 games. Ryan Tannehill has been sacked 13 times through 3 games. And the viability of Andre Dillard, if it continues to be this bad, they have to look at making a change. I'm concerned that Dylan Radins, who was a left tackle in college, but they don't seem to want to let him play left tackle in the pros, that there's enough red flags there for me to be concerned. Just because we haven't seen Dylan Radins play doesn't mean he's better. It means that he's an unknown. You know that Andre Dillard is bad. You don't know that Dylan Radins is bad. He may not be. There's just not enough information for us to be able to understand. But I do see for years now the coach's reticence to put him out there. So that immediately to me raises red flags. Petit Frere, having played left tackle in college, being asked to play the right tackle position, starting there as a rookie for 16 games, I have to imagine that there is at least going to be some opportunity for him to work on this offensive line. But I don't know if that's as a left tackle, because I don't think they necessarily need to move Chris Hubbard out of the right tackle spot. I think Chris Hubbard has been good enough. If Dillard continues to struggle, one, how quickly do they make the move? Because a reminder, it took them 15 weeks to at least even consider the idea of changing things up with Dennis Daly. They started Dennis Daly against the Chargers. They benched him in the game. They put in Dylan Radins. The pass protection got slightly better, but Radins tore his ACL. So they had to go right back to Daly for the rest of the year. So if Dillard, if Dillard struggles, how much longer do they leave him in there? And 2, who is the option that they go to? They've got Justin Murray on the active roster. We'll see if that continues to be the case, because now with NPF back, he's going to take up a roster spot. So Justin Murray may not be on the active roster by the time NPF is in consideration. NPF has played left tackle before, but not at the pros, and he's been working almost exclusively as a right tackle since he got to Tennessee. Skoronski's not yet available, so Skoronski can't yet be put into the picture. I'm going to be fascinated to see how it is that they adapt to this problem, because right now the left tackle situation is a problem. And if they hope to have any kind of success beyond what they were able to accomplish last year, and they were in it till the end last year, but God knows it was a slog, they have to find ways to fortify that situation. And Dillard can't be allowed to continue to be a liability. He's going to be your starting left tackle for Sunday. How much he continues to play beyond that, that's up to him. So there's a couple of comments in here. Alan Rogers says, Buck, who do you think will take the injured player's place this Sunday? So Chris Moore will be the replacement for Treylon Burks. Elijah Molden, you'll probably see Kendall Vildor out there. You'll probably see Trey Avery out there. Actually, you'll probably see way more Trey Avery than you will Vildor. Vildor seems to have played himself out of a spot. So I'd keep an eye on Trey Avery for Elijah Molden and Chris Moore for Treylon Burks. So we'll see what the Titans, how competitive they are on Sunday. I'm going to be out there in front of the Pro Shop doing the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff with Titans legend Blaine Bishop, Mickey Ryan, and Kayla Anderson. So if you're out tailgating, hope you'll stop by and say hi. Always cool to see you guys. As I said earlier, we'll do primetime Sunday night, of course, after the Titans and Bengals game. Back here in the home studio. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves this weekend. Enjoy the football. I hope for your guys' sakes, for your mental health, that it goes better for you than the first 2 of the 3 weeks of the season have gone. But certainly we'll be out there. We'll talk about it together after the fact, and I will talk to you basically all day on Sunday once we get things going. Thanks for hanging out here with us on the 615 Sessions Podcast.